Hi, I'm Darren Jack from the Hall of Fame collection. I'm in the Paddock Modes Club here in Burlington, Ontario. We're opening our museum behind me as well, so stay tuned for this podcast and hopefully we'll see you soon.
This is special. So I'm going to kick this off with a quick question for you.
Yeah, sure.
You ready?
I'm always ready.
Okay, here we go. You say you're always ready, right?
Yeah.
Born ready?
Well, I'm ready.
Okay. Ford or Ferrari? Oh.
You know, when you say Ford versus Ferrari, you think of the movie in the 60s and you think of, oh, that's very, the Ford, of course, with the, those times it was, that's what you kind of lean towards, but probably got to go with Ferrari,
Yeah?
Yeah, it's a great brand, especially in racing and stuff. Enzo Ferrari, he was a racer himself.
Sure.
So, I got to go with Ferrari.
You going with Ferrari? All right, there you go. I won't hold it against you, I promise. That's awesome. No, I watched bits and pieces of the movie, and then Ron and I were working away at Frontline. We were doing something, and we just kept using that reference all the time. And then I finally sat down and made myself watch the whole movie. It was just fantastic. Yeah. Like to learn about that whole era and what that was all about.
Yeah, I'll relate to what Brian was talking about. We were doing some acoustic tiling, right?
That's right.
And so Brian's doing his thing and I'm doing my thing. And I said, look, Ferrari. I cut a piece around the lighting panel, and then he does it and he goes, that's a Ford.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Daz, how'd you come up with that handle?
So, in England, that's where I'm from originally, half my life here in Canada now, but everyone seems to shorten names in England, I mean, sure, like Ron is probably too long, we got to call you R or something, right? But in England, it's like, if you're Darren, you're Daz, and if you're Sharon, you're Shaz, and if you're Gary, you're Gaz. So it's like a good client of mine who kind of kick-started me with my business, his name's Howard. Yeah. And he was like, okay, well, I'm Haas then. I'm like, no, it doesn't work that way. But he's like, why not? I want to be Haas. I'm like, okay, you can be Haas. But, so Daz kind of stuck as my nickname my whole life. And my family and all my good friends call me Daz. And in the business world, I suppose I'm known very much more as Darren. But, you guys call me Daz because Ron's son, he happens to work as our photographer, and ironically, he was taught by my wife at school, so he's a former student. So it's a small world, and anybody who's associated with my wife kind of knows me as Daz. Like her grandma would be calling me Daz, and at first I thought that was kind of weird, and I was like, well, it's kind of cool,
No, it's awesome. This venue here is spectacular.
Yeah,
I can't say that. I just keep looking around the room here that. What a spectacular place! And in the backdrop, to have vehicles like Aston Martins, have the Lamborghinis, the Corvette in the background, the Porsche that are here, but you are missing one car.
Oh yeah, what's that?
Where's the Shelby Mustang?
Yeah, I know. You never know. Maybe coming in here, right? They change all the time. That's the cool thing is you got to keep coming back to see what is going to be on display.
So these vehicles, you don't own these vehicles.
That's right. They're all privately owned from different members of the club.
Okay.
And a couple of them are the founder of the club. He's a racer himself, so he's got some of his race cars here and everything else.
Oh wow.
The memorabilia is mine. The cars, just stay tuned because we're looking at maybe bringing in something cool like some Formula One cars or Indy cars, and on the sales side, on the business side, it's the next sort of step in memorabilia. So that'll be the thing that we're looking at doing next. And what's cool about working in this environment is you'll be, concentrating on your work, and then all of a sudden a big engine revs up and as they're moving something in, moving something out. It's like, oh, and then they all sound great, right?
Oh, so, yeah, just start one of them up. Yeah, absolutely.
Fire them up, get some music going.
Yeah, get some music going in here.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your collection, because that's what you're all about, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some spectacular stuff here that people need to know about.
Yeah, it's cool because now a lot of this has been hidden in my house for many years in my basement, and it's kind of just grown and grown out of control. And very fortunate to have this partnership with Paddock Motor Club. So now, for the first time, I've been able to bring my personal collection over here and actually have some space in my house for once. But I did have it in one room, which looked pretty cool. But now we really be able to exhibit the collection well and put the full suits on display with a helmet. In many cases, we got a lot of the driver's gloves and boots. So it's like a complete history of motorsport from as early as 1911, which I was showing you earlier, the oldest driver's suit in the world, to current drivers from the 2020 season. So there's probably about 350 different drivers represented in the collection. Most of them are a complete set of a helmet, a suit, and everything that they've worn basically in the car.
Wow.
And it's cool because you really see the evolution of the safety features, the helmets that started as a cloth helmet, all the way to how, in recent times you've seen accidents in Formula One where a driver's been stuck in a car for 30 seconds on fire, and after a horrific, G load that he takes, and when he on impact and he walks away, literally jumps out of the car. So it's cool to see how the safety innovations have improved as well.
Yeah. So it must be like the evolution of the car itself, obviously, right? The safety features, the speed of the cars, but like you said, the suits and the helmets, the gloves, the shoes, they've all evolved with it.
Yeah, it's not only the evolution of the cars and how much safer they are, but also, the clothing that they wear, the fireproofs, of course, and the technology that the companies put into it, the helmet manufacturers, and even the race suit manufacturers that often make the gloves and boots as well. And then, of course, the circuits, that's the other thing. So where they race, if you look at, not too long ago, if you look back to the sort of 1970s or even the 80s, you got giant Armco barriers and around the circuits, or some of them with limited runoff areas. If you look at on the sort of American racing side, you've got concrete walls they were slamming into, the safety barriers that was developed. And then to add on to that, of course, which is close to what your guys' heart is, of course, the safety teams that are involved in racing now, and how organized they are, the strategic plans that they've got to follow the race, to be positioned, the marshals and the medical staff around the circuit, so they're on hand, ready for anything that could go wrong. And of course, adding on to that is how organized they are with maybe helicopters that are around on the circuits to take people to the hospitals or infield care centers, as they have them a lot of time on the track facility ready. The frontline workers are ready for those accidents.
And you know what, thank you for mentioning that, because obviously Ron and I come from the first responder world as paramedics for 30 years, and responded to many car accidents, but not a car accident that happens at the speeds these men and women travel at.
Let's hope.
Yeah. Like it's got to be spectacular. And, I've had the opportunity to join some of these medical teams. I didn't during my career. I just had too many other things to do. But let's just talk about that for a minute. So that's evolved as well, obviously, right? With what's gone on. Like, was there anything, like, when did the whole evolution of the medical teams and the infield hospital, when did all that start?
There's a gentleman by the name of Dr. Sid Watkins, and he was from England, and he was big in sort of Formula One, where, back in the day, they would basically just have, there's an ambulance on hand, and that was it. And the ambulance could be at one area of the circuit, and there could be an accident. Well, they've got to wait for the ambulance to drive all the way around to the position on the track where it happens. And there was a very famous driver by the name of Ronnie Peterson in the 1970s, and he was very very highly rated as a fast driver. He was Mario Andretti's teammate, and going into the final race in the Italian Grand Prix in 1978, Andretti ended up going on to win that championship. But at the start of the race, Peterson was involved in a pretty horrendous accident. And just by them not being very organized, not having the staff on hand, there's a lot of drivers. Unfortunately, Ronnie was one of them too, but these drivers lost their lives when they didn't really need to because they weren't on hand. And I think after that, Bernie Ecclestone needs a lot of credit too, got together with Dr. Sid Watkins, and they started planning, how to improve those safety features. And you see it now in NASCAR and IndyCar too, how they have these safety teams right on track, get into those cars so fast. You just have to watch an accident, and if you can count the seconds, how quickly they can get to them. In Roman Grosjean's case, it was lightning quick. It was only maybe a few turns into the race, but the safety car, first of all, they've got a professional driver.
Oh, okay.
So they've got a former racing driver in Burt Mylander driving a Mercedes, very, very high performance car, starting behind the field as the race starts. So by the time anything would happen on lap one, they would be as close as they could be to the cars to get to the accident quickly, and to be able to be on hand, jump out, know exactly what they need to do.
Wow.
And fire marshals are usually very close in that they're right on hand too, with the fire extinguishers and everything to be ready for any of these accidents. They're all trained. They've been taught through every scenario of what could happen, and so it's really good to see. And the circuits are getting safer as well. And I've lost a couple of friends over the years in racing accidents, and to see how they've pioneered the safety now with the aero screen in IndyCar, which covers the cockpit, and the Formula One side, it's a little bit of a different design, but they've got what they call the halo, and it really protects the driver's head a lot more. So when you first see them, and you're kind of a traditional racing guy, and you've seen these old school cars, you kind of a bit mixed emotions. You're like, no, I don't really like that. We like it to be a little bit unsafe, but then knowing them on the human level and seeing them walk away versus losing them, you go, you know what, I like this.
I got a question. One of my favorite drivers when I was a kid watching NASCAR was obviously Earnhardt Sr. I'm just curious, the technology, the safety equipment, the safety barrier, the Hans device, would Earnhardt Sr. have survived that crash nowadays if that happened?
Yeah, I think he would, because the biggest thing that was missing when Earnhardt passed away was the Hans device.
Right.
So the head and neck safety device that basically comes over the person's shoulders and attaches the driver's helmet to their head. So with an accident, you're looking at the driver, basically their head snapping forward in such an impact that's fast.
Yeah.
Dale Earnhardt, that was the case with him, because he got turned into a wall.
Right.
A quick right angle, doing probably close to a couple 100 mph straight into a wall, and his neck snapped. And within a couple of years, they basically made it mandatory to have a Hans device, and they've developed them a lot more since, and now they're even better, and they're a lot more comfortable for the drivers to wear as well. So yeah, I think it would have saved his life. So it's sad that we lose these people, but ultimately it's good that we learn from them too, so that there's many drivers who are still with us today.
Well, and it's like we've been talking about, it's the evolution, right? It's and hopefully we learn from our mistakes. We learn from where we fall short with whatever things in life, business, professional, and personally, and just hopefully we get better with that. So I think that's just what it comes down to is. His life would have been saved, but technology knowledge just wasn't there at that time, and unfortunately, that had to happen for us to learn. But as you said, now the drivers are just that much safer.
Yeah. How have you found it sort of on the non-racing side, and even during your careers or lives? Like, have you noticed too how things have improved with the airbags, or like drivers, just the regular road cars and things like that. Have you seen sort of those similar things on the non-racing side?
Yeah, well, for myself, I was in a response vehicle, a one-man vehicle in Hamilton, and I was coming down one of the major roads in downtown Hamilton. I had a clear shot, and I went to the left on the middle of the road, and the last second, this guy decides to turn left, and I had to go around him, and I had the option of either going into the bus shelter or into a telephone pole. And so I just locked it up with the ABS. Luckily, I had the ABS, locked it up, and I just turned it into the telephone pole, and I probably hit it around 80, 90 kilometers an hour.
Oh, wow.
And I hit the telephone pole so hard, the transaxle, everything snapped in half. I literally saw the axles go up in the air before the airbag displaced.
Wow.
I was probably unconscious for a few seconds because I remember just waking up and wondering where the heck I was. And then people were tapping at the window trying to get me out.
That explains some things about you then.
Obviously. So, needless to say, I did sustain a concussion. But I know that when Brian and I first started back in the early 90s, the ambulances, they didn't have the airbags or anything like that. I know that the airbags, the roll cage, the ABS system saved my life. Absolutely.
Wow. So that's something I didn't know. They have roll cages built.
Well, they have they have to, like, if you watch the safety videos, they have to be able to sustain a rollover. So they actually have the bracing inside. I don't know if they're called roll cages, but one of the ambulance mechanics, when they took the car away, and they said, I said, what kind of safety stuff are in this vehicle? And he said, compared to what you were when you first started to now, it's like night and day. Yeah,
it's interesting because I often look at road cars and I'm just like, to be honest, I wish there was stricter rules in place because you guys probably know it better than I do. But when a race car rolls and you see the roll cages, there's a few of them behind me, but you just know how much safer it is, and the cars really on the road aren't built very strong at all, and it's a little frustrating. I'm sure it would annoy a lot of people because the prices of the cars would probably go up tremendously, and the manufacturers would be scrambling. But,
well, Brian flew in a helicopter, so roll cages wouldn't really help him in that.
No, but you're right. I was always amazed how people were ejected from a vehicle. Like how you could even look into one of these cars here and imagine like a human body being able to go out through the top or out the windshield, and it happened all the time. And it always just amazed me, how they could come out. But again, the evolution of the every ordinary day car has come a long ways too. So side and front airbags, it was enormous. The seat belts themselves, how they went from just a lap to coming up and across. So I think it's evolved, but out here in the QEW is much just like Mossport out there. People think that they're driving on Mossport out there.
Yeah,
it's pretty crazy.
It can be.
Yeah. What? So let's learn a little bit more about you, like your background, how you got into this.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because with a lot of the memorabilia and the racing and everything, it's kind of it's in my brain. It's all there. And if you think about what are the normal paths for a child, right? They grow up and they learn maybe the alphabet, and they learn numbers, and then they learn how to write, and then they learn how to read and go to school, and maybe it's kindergarten first, and then they go through all of that to put them into college, maybe to try and figure out, I'm going to study now for something that I want to do in a career, right?
Right.
Well, ultimately, I didn't realize it, but I was kind of studying to do this my entire life with a huge passion for motorsport and memorabilia and collecting just from such a young age. And I've done different businesses too. I spent 10 years in the jewelry business, and but whilst I was still collecting and also kind of dealing in the hobby a little bit before I went into it full time, and that I'm kind of lucky really that I basically found something I love and found something that I enjoy, but also the knowledge that I have, from such a young age, as being a sponge and taking it all in. So that kind of pays off today when we're dealing with items or with drivers, and it becomes pretty much second nature based on the experience, really.
Yeah. So you're never a driver yourself?
I only done a little bit of driving. I want to do more, and you know, racing is an expensive sport. So if you don't have the kind of family funding to start when you're young, then you go out and make your own money, and then start when you can start.
How fast did you go? How fast did you go on the track?
I think probably at Mossport. You know, the picture behind me is coming out of turn 5 and going straight up going up the straight there. You know, you can, depending on the car, I mean, you can get up to a couple 100 miles an hour easy on that straight, you know, but it's very fast. It's a fast track. It's fun, but even if you're doing a smaller, slower, more technical track, it's just it's the same amount of rush, if you like. You know, once you start getting up to a certain speed, you kind of get used to it, and it doesn't really look that much faster. It's just you concentrating on your marks for that corner and everything else. Everybody likes to kind of talk about the top speeds and stuff, and it's fun, but you know, like I say, all kinds of circuits are different challenges, and I suppose that's what I like about racing too. It's a challenge. You're always challenging yourself. Can you go better? Can you go deeper into that corner? Get better grip, you know, work on your racecraft to overtake people, perform, you know. It's just like, it's kind of like everything that I've done my whole life, all the sports I've played, racing, business, you know, everything is kind of a competition, and not necessarily against others, but against yourself, and how can you perform that better, and you know, that's what keeps me going, I guess, every day too. It's just, there's always something, there's always a challenge, and to, you know, just this morning coming out of the gym, you know, okay, can I deadlift my personal best today, you know, can I bench press a little bit more than before? Yeah, I think that's important in everyday life for everybody, just to have those goals and just to try and always go further than you've been before, you know.
Yeah. Let's talk for a minute, because, you know, people always reference this whole thing about whether drivers are athletes. You know, at least I've heard it, and I'm sure you're in the business, so I'm sure you've heard it a lot more. I have a tremendous amount of respect and understanding, although I don't understand it fully, but for those people, so let's just talk about that. Like, these men and women that are racing, they are premier athletes.
They are, but you have to understand that from a human being perspective, you know, everybody or most people drive, right? Yeah. So they consider that they drive, and driving's pretty easy. So it's hard for them to comprehend that what you're going to do differently as a race car driver as opposed to a regular day driver. You know, it's like if there was a sport called walking, which maybe there is, you know, you say, well, we walk, how hard can that be? You know, right. Okay, you're going to walk 10,000 kilometers. Okay, yeah, well, yeah, that's probably tiring, but they don't really understand that those guys are athletes too, you know. So the best way I like to describe it is, it's like, say, okay, you know, when you get on a roller coaster and you're being given G loads into a corner, your head's being pulled this way and just that way. Imagine you've got to sit at the front of that roller coaster, and now you got to keep it on the rails yourself. So you've got to drive it without making any mistakes, otherwise you're going to go off. If you go off, yeah, you could have some severe injuries, but let's just say there was an area you could go off. But if you do, you're going to, competitors behind you is going to beat you and pass you in the competition side. But after you've done one complete lap or one try on the roller coaster, maybe you've got to do that 200 more times or 80 times, depending on the circuit. And that's going to be physically exhausting on your body, right? Right. And for you to perform at that level, to go that same speed every time too. That's the way I like to describe it, because people have been on a roller coaster, they've been thrown around, their heads all over the place. They get off, they're exhausted, they can't concentrate, and that's the best comparison I like to say.
I think that puts it into total perspective for me. Thank you for putting it that way, because I love the roller coaster. But that comparison right there, if I was driving that and doing that for, like you said, 80, 90 times over and over, and trying to push it that little bit, 1% the next time around, let's go 1% faster. Yeah. Let's go into that turn 1% better than we did. And to do that for the hours that are demanded, and the G-forces that are being put on the body. Because I know flying around in the helicopter is what, I understand we come to understand G-forces and the impact on the body. And at the end of a day, with myself, with, the G-forces with the helmets, people think that, you just put a helmet on. But work in that helmet, it's a totally different perspective. And everything becomes visual because you take away the sound, so everything becomes visual now. So that's an extra effort just to do that, and then be able to, see your hands and and work in that environment. And it was exhausting, like you said. At the end of a day, at the end of a busy day with the air ambulance program, it was beyond the word exhausting. So I can really appreciate.
Yeah, they're in top shape as well. These drivers,
Absolutely.
training. Some of them are triathletes, and they're certainly their head and neck strength is superior to most sports. And but they're great athletes. These
Is that
days.
something they would train in the gym to strengthen their necks?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They
Okay.
do that. They do that.
I
a
never
lot,
thought of that.
No,
There's
I haven't
reaction
either.
times, and a lot of it now also is nutrition, and something I've learned about myself the last few years is the brain operates so much better when you're healthy and you're eating correctly, and it all makes a difference when they're competing with the best drivers in the world. How can we have the best brain capacity and best mental capacity, and all those things I think are important, not just in racing but in life actually. Yeah.
So why is this whole thing about collections? Let's just talk about that for a second. I'm going to admit, I don't know. I collect some die-cast models. I've got some stuff at home, stuff from my dad that he passed on down to me. And people say, why do you have that? Why do you got that sitting in a box for like that? And it's tough to explain that to people.
Yeah.
But you're the ultimate collector. You're the ultimate guy. So can you explain that?
I know. I'm a disaster when it comes to collecting. I'm terrible actually, because I love all sports too. And my nephew, he's collecting the Tim Hortons hockey cards.
Hockey cards, yeah.
So I thought, well, I'll be a good uncle and start collecting them too. So I got 2 girls, and they're not really interested in collecting or sports.
Yeah.
So, but then I decided, I'm terrible because I have to finish everything. I have to get every card. I have to try and trade and buy expensive ones, and I keep working until I've completed it. So I've just been like that as a child, and with collecting stickers or cards, if you like, and then it just escalated to.
Well, why is that so important to you?
I don't know. It's just you have an interest in a subject, and then with cars, for example, I collected model cars. I've got probably a couple of thousand of them too, and my dad was the same way, and he would buy some for my brother and some for me, and then we followed Formula One, so we would have to have one of every car from that year, or we try our best to try and get as many as possible, and then the ones you're missing, you want to add them in, and that's the fun thing about collecting. It keeps you busy, and especially if you collect something that's somewhat worth something, you feel like you're invested in something. And
yeah, because people have asked me, they'll come down into the basement and they'll see them there, and they'll go to pick them up, and you're just sort of like,
don't touch.
Wish you wouldn't do that, but you're trying to be nice. But at the same time, they go like, "Why do you have it?" It just sits there on the shelf, and it's a question that I at times struggle to answer or come to reasoning with myself. But for me, it's a sense of it's a connection for me. It's a sense of pride. It's a sense of me being able to talk to you about that, whatever you're collecting.
Yeah.
So I guess that's
Most
where it lies with
people who
me.
don't collect, then they collect money, right?
Well, there you go. That's what I should get better at, is collecting money.
But who's happier? Because then you say, well, yeah, I spent $50 on that die cast. You got the same $50. What did you do with yours? I put it in the bank. So your question to me was, what are you doing with that? It's just sitting there, right? Well, isn't your $50 sitting there too?
There you go.
Do you get to look at that and enjoy it?
There you go.
I know for me, for collecting, like I collected vicariously through my son John. When he was a little kid, I'm going to buy him a NASCAR diecast, but I was really buying it for myself.
Of course.
So one of the first diecasts I bought him a Tony Stewart, his racing car, and his hat. But for me, when I look at the diecast, whether they're Le Mans or Formula One or Indy or NASCAR, it's a story.
Yeah.
I can look at that vehicle and I can say, that's the car that won this race on that day. This is the driver. This is what I saw. This is the experience. And yeah, you know, I'll never get in a NASCAR or Formula One. Never experienced what the G-force we talked about, the smell of the fuel. And I've been to Mossport, and you actually see the tires disintegrating in the corners and going flying in the air. You don't see that on television. That's when I look at that, I hold that die cast, you know.
That's right.
And John's mom will go, "You're an idiot." It's like,
You go, well, yeah,
most
but
women don't
what's
get
your
it.
point?
I'll never understand.
but for me, it's all about storytelling.
Sure it is.
Those-
No, that's good.
Whether it's an autograph, like, you know, and, you know, if I was worth my salt, I would have said, can we grab one of your helmets and put it here, and you can show people what an Indy helmet looks like, or the gloves.
Yeah.
But to say, you know, this is signed by AJ Ford or Al Unser, like some of the stuff I walked around, Andretti, I saw Andretti's name there.
Yeah.
One of my favorite drivers a long time, Emerson Fittipaldi.
Yeah.
Way in the corner, I went, holy crap, that's Emerson Fittipaldi. That kind of stuff conjured when I was a kid, like 8 or 9 years old, watching Wild World of Sports, and Indianapolis was about to start.
It's the memories, isn't it, from
incredible.
the racing?
It is.
It's one of the
Absolutely.
things that I love is the history of motorsports and stuff too, and we have these all these things that connect us with that, right? So, you know, you talk about Mario Andretti, and I've just recently this year, in 2020, believe it or not, I got his rookie helmet from 1965, and 4 days later, I got his rookie suit.
Really?
So I had them together. Both of them arrived in Indianapolis when I was down there for the 500 this year. And so you know, I was kind of like, this is history. You know, this is the first time these two items have been back together since 1965,
Right.
which is, what is that? 55 years. 65,
Wow.
how many years is that?
I don't know. That's math I'm
That's
not
not-
doing
forget
right
it.
now.
Yeah, we're talking about racing.
Yeah.
But you
It's
actually
only
had
55
had the Andretti boys and the dad paraphernalia. I saw one of your pictures. You actually had the Andretti boys paraphernalia with the dad. Andretti.
Yeah, it's cool because I like to collect things from different, you know, that's the problem as a collector, where do you stop, right? But,
Right.
you know, I've got Mario's rookie helmet in his suit, and then I've got Michael, who is his son, most famously, multi-time race winner, you know, went to Formula One, IndyCar champion, multiple Indianapolis 500 victories as a team owner now as well. And then, of course, Michael had another brother named Jeff Andre. So Jeff did, I think, 3 or 4 Indy 500s. I've got his helmet and his suit. So even that's like the less famous one. Sometimes it's cool when you get those because you're like, oh, that's the Andretti I'm missing, you know.
Yeah.
And so I've got Jeff Andretti's helmet and suit. I've got Michael, his brother. I've got his dad, Mario. And, of course, Mario's grandson, Michael's son, is Marco Andretti. And I've got some of his stuff, too. And then there's John Andretti, who's Marco's uncle, who raced in IndyCar. So I've got his stuff. So I was kind of like, I said to Marco once, I said, I kind of winding him up a little bit. I was like, hey, you know, I'm the only one in the world who's got all 5 Andretti's in my collection. He's like, no, we got it. And I said, who's we? And he's like, we've got it all. And I'm like, you mean the family? So, like, not one person? He's like, well, yeah. I'm like, well, there you go. I'm the only one in the world.
This is awesome. No, it's you know, what NASCAR is the #1 intended sport across the Americas, right? Yeah, like I think it's that, and then football. I think are the
Well, they go hand in hand.
you know, but you know, for myself, being able to travel throughout the U.S., I was at Indy just prior to the 500 for the qualifiers.
Oh, nice.
I was in Indianapolis and got the opportunity to go down, and we got right down to the pits. We you know, have the tour the whole bit, and then when they were doing the qualifying rounds, I got to we sat right at turn 1 and watched them come around turn 4, and just to hear that sound, like the bing, 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 bing coming up, and by the time they come into that turn, it's the biggest rush I've ever experienced, and watched them rip around turn 1, turn 2, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, there they go. Oh, they're back. There they go. They're back. And it was spectacular. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, it was a big rush.
Yeah.
Big rush. So, Des, so can people get a group together, come down here, set up to come and have a tour? Like, let's talk about that.
Yeah,
what
sure.
This is all
So
about.
the Paddock Motor Club is a private club, so
Okay.
people can become members here, and it's a great facility for corporate members or even individuals. So the members can have great member benefits. There's a full service restaurant upstairs and bar down here.
Okay.
There's also the movie theater, so we'll play like the Formula One races on weekends here and stuff. And it's a great place to entertain, whether it's your family and friends that you want to bring down, or if you want to have a business meeting. There's boardrooms, there's a cigar lounge, and there's this great area that we're sitting in here as well. Gift shop, and then on the memorabilia side, on our company side, we're going to have the museum opening sort of early 2021, and with the COVID rules and everything and limited people allowed in, we're not sure exactly how that's going to work, but there will be a way for a general public to come in and to view the museum and maybe buy a ticket, which includes a dinner or lunch. We've also got the simulators here, so they can race on the simulators and try that out and have some fun. And, I mean, we've got golf simulators, pool tables. So.
Yeah, I see that.
Now, this part you might want to edit out, and I'm just throwing spaghetti on the wall here. My brain is working like 200 miles an hour in turn 3. So everything coming out in turn 3 on the straightaway. For the first responders and the military personnel and the healthcare workers, a lot of them love this environment, not just collecting, but racing and the vehicles. And if you don't like the racing, how can you not just love these beautiful pieces of art? The one thing I want to throw out there is for the first responders, is there a way that, and I've thrown this out to Brian because he rides motorcycles, can we do a motorcycle rally for fundraising for first responders and PTSD, something that Brian and I live with every day, in conjunction with Hall of Fame collection, where we can bring the guys down here who want to do the and we can edit this out, Daz, if you're not.
This is only do it if they all wear my helmets. How about that?
There you go.
But like, I just see this wonderful relationship of bringing first responders here to say, forget about what you do for a living for an hour or two. Come in here and just look at this place. Talk to Daz. He's a great storyteller. And then maybe we can do this first responder motorcycle rally for charity fundraiser or something.
You could do something like that, and we can do maybe where we have just private tour for those guys only to get a view of the museum and
that'd be awesome.
Stuff like that. And certainly I got a couple of friends who are first responders, firefighters, and paramedics and stuff, and I've got a lot of respect for what those guys do and what you guys have done and been through and stuff too. So yeah, absolutely, anything to kind of bring light and lighten that and what they're going through every day, or what the things that they've.
Yeah, I think it would be a great start point.
Yeah,
you ride down on your motorcycle. I'll be in my ambulance, living in my ambulance as a support unit, and we start here, and we can do the tour and go to the restaurant and take off.
It's like I said right at the start. There's no such thing as coincidence. We're here. The wheels are turning, and I'm sure that we can just continue to grow. There's so much more that I wanted to talk to you about. Tony Stewart. I wanted to talk to you about it, and we're not there. We're down to the end of the show, so
we can keep going.
But
can we come back? That's the thing. Can we come back?
Yeah. No, it's thank you for taking time out of your day.
Yeah,
I really do. I know you're a busy man, and time's a special, very special commodity in life. But thank you for sharing. I'd like to talk to you more about collection and how therapeutic that is, and just what it can do for each and every person out there. But again,
on that note, I know a lot of your first responders listen to the podcast and watch it, I think, on YouTube and stuff too, right?
Yeah.
So. I really believe that, there are some difficulties and challenges we all go through, and certainly more so for some of the guys that watch this. And I think collecting and just staying busy and giving yourself sort of those jobs to do is good. And like you say, collecting is therapeutic, just to find something that you enjoy, whether it is collecting the hockey cards or the die casts, or maybe you collect movies or books or something, just the hunt, the hobby, and the connections you can have with people, especially in today's age, on online groups, Facebook groups and stuff that you're interested in. If you're interested in racing and collecting, you can follow us on our social medias as well, at Hall of Fame Collection on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook, and I'm on Instagram as well at Daz_Jack, and usually I'm pretty open, showing people my life and some cool stuff that's going on here. And we have a YouTube channel as well at Hall of Fame Collection, where we talk about cool racing memorabilia and different stories. So if you guys are always interested in that, you can check it out as well.
Absolutely. Will do. Once again, thank you.
Thank you very much.
It was a fun day.
It was great.
Yeah, I love that incredible place here, and we're going to bring family and friends down here to check this out as well. Thank you to everybody for watching, taking the time out of your day to be here. It's a tough time. We're coming down to the end of 2020. A new beginning is coming. Merry Christmas to everybody. Next Friday is Christmas, ho, 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 and all that good stuff. Please, everybody, do your part. Be safe. Be with your family. Be with your friends over. Try to keep those numbers down to just small groups. But everybody do your part, and we'll get out the other side of this thing, and we'll bring a big whopping group down here to come and see this. To each and every first responder out there, thank you for what you do. If you're working over the holidays, we're thinking about you. From Frontline Forward, from Mr. Sonoda, from Max the Wonder Dog, and myself, have a happy Christmas, and thank you for watching.